Charleston White recently responded to the idea of sitting down for an interview with FYB J Mane, and he shut it down immediately. He said he had no interest in appearing on another platform where, in his view, someone was online yelling, begging, and claiming to be broke for attention. J Mane had just appeared on No Jumper, where he leaned heavily into the "I'm broke" storyline, a narrative Charleston insisted was more performance than reality. J Mane argued that he'd gone viral before by presenting his struggles publicly, and he felt disrespected by what he believed was an unfair payment offer. He pointed out that the platform allegedly paid $100,000, yet offered him a fraction of that, despite the fact that he felt he brought major visibility to their show. During the exchange, J Mane jokingly tried to calm himself down, saying he needed his inhaler and might have to sell his chain after the interview. He went on to explain that being broke and being homeless weren't the same thing. To him, being broke meant having an EBT card and selling benefits just to get by, while being homeless meant you didn't even have an EBT card at all. Adam pushed the idea that the two situations usually overlap, but J Mane insisted he couldn't understand the reality of those struggles without having lived them, pointing out that Adam had never even owned an EBT card. His main message was clear: you can't speak on hardships you've never personally experienced. Charleston White made it clear that he prefers using his own money rather than relying on taxpayers, and he suggested others should do the same, especially people who are successful enough not to need public assistance. He criticized platforms for underpaying people like FYB J Mane and Mama Duck, saying situations like that still haven't been resolved. He also joked that while some claim Chicago credibility, they still haven't stepped foot on 63rd, even if they visited O-Block. A debate broke out when Adam mentioned that many Chicago artists who appear on the show rely on EBT. Charleston argued that some do, but not the successful ones, pointing to people like Z, who has money. Then he switched topics to respond directly to the idea of interviewing FYB J Mane. His answer was firm: absolutely not. He didn't want to appear on a show where, in his opinion, someone was shouting online, claiming to be broke, and behaving erratically just to gain attention. Charleston went further, joking about J Mane carrying a cereal box around during interviews and treating it like a prop. He argued that if this were serious branding, a real cereal company should have stepped in with sponsorship, maybe even donating proceeds toward victims of gun violence. Instead, Charleston saw it as a gimmick not worth his time. He said he was too intelligent to sit down and have a conversation with someone whose focus was cereal and theatrics rather than substance. He even joked that he doesn't eat cereal with milk, so a discussion about cereal would go nowhere anyway. The situation reminded Charleston of another memorable video where he sat eating cereal straight from the box, no milk, crunching it dry like potato chips while going off on boozy. That moment had become a perfect example of how he blends comedic absurdity with strong opinions. Even then, he wasn't trying to be polished or delicate. He was presenting himself the way he wanted, raw and unfiltered. To Charleston, it was never about being refined for the camera. It was about being real, even if that meant sitting on camera with a cereal box in his lap while talking trash. But things have changed since then. Charleston explained that he's no longer interested in being the character people expect him to be, whether that character is funny, outrageous, or provocative. He doesn't want to go on platforms pretending to support peace movements, positivity tours, or public unity campaigns just to make himself look good. He said if he's going to do something, it has to make sense to him, not just serve someone else's agenda. He has no interest in sitting on panels where rappers talk about changing the community while nothing changes. Instead, he'd rather lean into things that make him money and give him creative freedom. Whether that means hosting events in strip clubs or doing high-energy appearances that match the persona people already connect him with. He referenced old-school player movies like Dr. Detroit, celebrating a kind of flashy, comedic outlaw energy that he feels represents his personality more honestly than wearing suits and pretending the world is peaceful. Charleston said he's not here to pretend the streets have suddenly become safe. Every night somewhere, neighborhoods still ring with gunshot sounds, and people pretend everything is fine the next morning. That reality is exactly why he refuses to let his content become soft or sanitized to appease viewers who only want positive messaging. From his point of view, positivity without progress is just performance, and he won't participate in something that looks good on camera but means nothing in real life. Then he shifted into another point, one that had clearly been simmering for a long time. Charleston said he's tired of talking to people who go by endless clusters of initials instead of real names. He wasn't impressed by stage names built from random acronyms. If the letters represented something meaningful, like PhD, CPA, lieutenant, captain, or even a military rank, he said that would be respectable. Those titles represent accomplishment, effort, and a path someone had to earn. But FYB J didn't tell him anything about the man behind the letters. To Charleston, it sounded like someone trying to use branding as a personality, instead of showing who they really are. This connected to a much larger frustration. Charleston feels that too many conversations he's invited into require him to dumb himself down. He feels like people expect him to argue, yell, insult, and entertain rather than think, analyze, and articulate. He said that on many platforms, the moment he starts speaking with intelligence, using proper grammar, layering ideas, or sharing structured thoughts, people look confused. They don't want Charleston the thinker. They want Charleston the viral moment. And while he's fully capable of being that character, it has become mentally draining to play a role that leaves no room for growth. He explained that at his core, he is someone who thinks deeply about issues. He reads, he studies, he understands politics, history, and the cultures that shape the communities he comments on. But many interviewers don't want that. They want him yelling, clowning, or roasting someone. They want short clips that go viral, not in-depth discussions that require viewers to reflect. And he's tired of that. He wants interviews that challenge him, conversations that bring out ideas he hasn't explored yet, hosts who listen actively and respond intelligently. When he sits down, he wants to feel like the time matters. That's why Charleston says he loves talking to people like Antoine Daniel or certain white interviewers who give him room to express the intellectual part of his personality. They don't ask him to turn himself into a cartoon character. They aren't scared of a conversation that might go deeper than jokes and theatrics. They push back, ask real questions, and give him a space where he feels respected. When those conversations happen, he feels like his brain can breathe. He gets to think, to learn, and to explore new angles. But the problem is that most platforms don't want that side of him. They want views and shares. They want his wild character to boost their numbers. And Charleston says he's tired of that dynamic. When he has to play dumb, it limits his voice and makes him feel like he's stuck in a caricature of himself. It might make money, but it doesn't satisfy the deeper parts of him, the parts that remember why he started talking publicly in the first place. He knows he helped build the dramatic version of his persona. He admits that it's entertaining and sometimes even fun. But he also believes most people don't realize it's just a performance, a role he adopted to get noticed. Behind the jokes and insults, he sees himself as someone who has lived through life, understood the streets, escaped them mentally, and built a life that allows him to speak with authority. There are layers to him, but only certain platforms let those layers appear. Charleston feels that if more interviewers treated him like an author, activist, or thinker rather than just a comedian or shock personality, the world would see a very different version of him. But until then, he says he has to protect his time. If someone shows up with initials for a name, a poor approach, and no intellectual depth, he has no interest in sitting down. He has reached a point where conversation has to feed him mentally, not drain him. And until the world lets him be Charleston the thinker again, he's done dumbing himself down just to fit someone else's expectations. Charleston White expressed a frustration that had clearly been building for a long time. He said he wants to go back to simply being himself, being Charleston, the thoughtful and sharp man he knows he is. But the public won't allow it. In his view, audiences have become so attached to the loud, over-the-top character he created that they refuse to accept him in any other form. He feels boxed in by the expectations of entertainment, forced to play the clown instead of the intellectual he actually wants to be. And while he admits that being the comedic troublemaker can be fun, just like being the kid in school who cracked jokes and got attention, it becomes exhausting when that persona becomes the only thing people want to see. This conflict came up when the conversation turned to FYB J Mane. Charleston made it clear that he has no interest in ever sitting down for an interview with him. He refused in his typical larger-than-life fashion, cracking jokes about the rapper's name and delivering his refusal with brutal comedic flair. To Charleston, J Mane's behavior online, yelling, acting unpredictable, and leaning heavily into being broke for views is not something he respects or wants to associate with. He believes that if someone wants his time, they need to come correct, and that begins with paying what he believes he's worth. No discounts, no friendly favors, no negotiations. If J Mane wants a conversation, Charleston says it would require money up front, just like it does for everyone else. Charleston continued by saying that if someone wants to approach him seriously, they should present themselves seriously. Show up dressed like they have something to say. Show up looking like they're qualified to speak. He joked that he could walk through an airport wearing a suit and convincingly pass himself off as a hip-hop doctor because he knows how to present himself that way. But when he hears J Mane speak, he feels as though he's listening to a completely different language, one that only people from difficult beginnings could understand. Charleston painted a harsh picture, suggesting that the way the younger rapper speaks reminds him of a child affected by hard circumstances before birth, struggling to find a clear path to communication. He insisted he has no interest in talking to someone who can't communicate on a professional level. He reminds everyone that he's college-educated, has learned to speak in corporate rooms, and that he sees himself as the executive in the conversation, not someone who needs to sit quietly while rappers with little experience in that world speak nonsense. The more he talked, the more animated he became. He admitted that listening to J Mane on No Jumper left him needing a translator just to understand the point. To Charleston, the problem wasn't just the words, it was the mentality. He feels that too many artists jump online talking about money and success while making decisions that keep them struggling. He brought up the moment when J Mane gave away $10,000 and ended up broke again not long after, calling it a classic mistake that leads many entertainers into financial ruin. Charleston insisted that generosity is admirable but should not come at the expense of stability. He said many rappers go broke trying to prove themselves to people who are broke as well, spending their last dollar trying to earn respect, loyalty, or viral approval. Meanwhile, the platforms they appear on may make far more money from the content than the artists themselves ever receive. Charleston argued that if someone wants to command higher pay professionally, they must start demanding it early. They have to declare their value long before everyone else agrees with it. That's the strategy Charleston says he adopted in his own journey. He explained that when he first began receiving offers, he refused to settle for small amounts. He asked for bigger checks even before he had fully earned them, betting that if people wanted his presence badly enough, they would eventually pay the price he requested. In his view, entertainers hurt themselves when they consistently accept scraps and then suddenly decide they deserve more. Audiences and platforms get used to paying them less, and by the time they finally decide to raise their rates, it's too late. No one wants to adjust upward. According to Charleston, success requires believing in your own value before the rest of the world sees it. He also spoke on the cost of fame, emphasizing that fame isn't free. It requires time, energy, and often a loss of privacy and peace. Many artists can't afford the emotional, financial, or lifestyle costs that comes with being in the spotlight, he said. They chase the idea of making it without understanding the price that comes with it. Some people get the spotlight, but not the success, because they never learned how to turn attention into financial longevity. The narration around Charleston's comments ended by turning attention toward the viewers. The speaker encouraged people to weigh in with their own opinions. Some viewers began wondering where the real issue originated. Was Charleston White genuinely frustrated with FYB J Mane personally, or was this simply a response to how Mane carried himself on No Jumper? Many fans pointed out that J Mane's interview on the platform was filled with bravado, comedic exaggeration, and a portrayal of himself as a major figure in the culture. something some believed Charleston felt was inflated or disconnected from reality. To Charleston, authenticity is everything. He has built a following by saying what many refuse to say out loud, not because he wants to be shocking for views, but because he believes that sugarcoating the truth has caused more damage than honesty ever could. When he looked at J Mane's interview, he may have seen something deeper, a reflection of the entertainment industry's obsession with image over substance. Charleston has often said that too many individuals from urban communities are encouraged to market themselves as characters, louder, brasher, more violent, more reckless, because that's what gets attention online. But in doing so, the real conversations never happen. The real issues never get addressed. And the cycle continues. The internet rewards clownishness, while young people in actual communities continue to face the consequences of the very violence that entertainers joke about. To Charleston, this wasn't just about one rapper or one podcast moment, it was about frustration with the culture at large. Some fans believe he reacted strongly not because J Mane personally wronged him, but because the interview represented a growing trend of performative masculinity and surface-level bravado that leaves no room for genuine leadership or growth. Charleston has repeatedly said he can't keep lowering the intellectual floor just to fit in with conversations that have no real substance. He wants to push the dialogue forward, even if that means upsetting people along the way, and yet, others saw the situation differently. They felt J Mane was simply being himself, entertaining, humorous, and using the moment to promote his personality and brand. In entertainment, image is part of the job. The no-jumper appearance may have been just that, entertainment. No deeper meaning, no disrespect intended. No deeper meaning, no disrespect intended. Some argued that Charleston took a lighthearted moment too seriously, making it a bigger issue than it ever needed to be. Ultimately, the video encouraged viewers to have their own interpretation. Was Charleston defending integrity? Was he venting long-held irritation with the entertainment industry? Was he responding to perceived disrespect? Or was the entire situation simply two personalities clashing publicly, each playing the role their audiences expect? Whatever the case, the narrator made it clear that this channel is committed to documenting these debates and presenting every angle. With the platform continuing to grow, surpassing 70,000 subscribers and climbing, the creator thanked everyone watching for riding along as the conversations get bigger, stronger, and more involved. New videos are on the way, and viewers were urged to drop a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share their thoughts, watch another story, and return for the next chapter in the unfolding narrative.